Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can you please join me for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Firstly, I'm looking for approval of the consent agenda, which is including the minutes of the April 9th regular board meeting and the services rendered agreements that were in your packet.
In those minutes, you all might recall, I just want to make sure that doesn't feel like anything's getting slipped by you. In the agenda last month, we had omitted a few of those federal reports that we needed to approve. It was in your board packets, but not on the agenda. It was fixed, but I just want to make sure you see that and know that that was changed before you approve it.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining or recusing?
As we have Mona training a little bit tonight, you might ask them to say who's getting the motion in a second. We might help them out.
I'll repeat it.
Okay.
Looking at approval of the financials next. April bills totaling $1,581,918.27, and the financial reports that were in your packet.
Any questions? Accept.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Shepherd.
Comments? Jack's got a couple of questions.
Is there a second before we move to the comments?
I'll second it. And then
All
we'll
right.
discuss.
It's been seconded by Mr. Carroll and then Mr. Lenz. Please go ahead with your questions and comments.
Thank you. First of all, I want to send kudos out to the music department, to Mr. and Mrs. Summers and Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Wright. I hope everybody enjoyed the band concert and the choral concert and the orchestra concert and the open house at the Beaker Middle School for their 100th anniversary and the retirement and teachers' honors banquet. I truly enjoyed all of them, and I hope everybody else enjoyed those too. And it appears to me that our music department is in very good hands. They do a wonderful job with those children and teaching them, so kudos to them. In going through, and Brad, you probably got some comments you want to make on the income and expense report. There was not any income in either of the reports on how much interest we earned on our savings. I understand last month it was 95,000. I have no idea what it was again this month, but probably somewhere in that neighborhood.
It was 100 something, and I had forgotten the exact amount, but I did get that answer after you left. I just didn't write it down, so 100 something.
That's just something we've been short in that report. Then
I missed that.
on one page there was a $64,000 practical nursing program that I didn't know what it was, and I found out it was just a transfer that you guys make. It was just a large amount.
To fund it, yeah.
The Springfield School, I wondered what that was, and they've got control of what? Something they control for the whole state, and we have to pay them $15,000.
It's some of our online learning curriculum. The name of it's eluding me again right now, but it's Launch. It's the Launch program that a lot of schools use for your online opportunities. That's one of the biggest ones probably.
They got there during COVID, and almost everybody's pretty much stayed.
Yeah, Springfield, it was Springfield's brainchild is why it goes to the district there.
And then we got to spend $15,871, and we bought some more tables. We're getting to be table poor. Seems to me like every month we buy tables.
That goes back to needing to spend that food service money tied directly to the cafeterias, the food service program, yes.
Then
The tables at the high school look really nice, by the way. They had the same tables since I was in high school, and Harry probably walked in there and started teaching. But they have some really nice red tables there now, and I do
Kids
like
off of
the,
them. Hey, get off those tables.
well, those tables lasted forever. And the tables over here as well, those are the only ones I've seen in the district, but
And there
the
was
new
one-
tables look well.
There was one for field testing, and I thought,
lead testing?
what are we testing the fields for? Well, that's part of the lead testing.
Yep.
And, that just, I just wondered what that was. I guess that's all my comments that I found. Brad, if you got some more, you went to it too.
Well,
I'm sure.
I already went over them with Caleb, and he answered my questions prior to the meeting, so.
Call a
I think we're
question.
okay.
Are you good in discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving of the financials at $1,581,918.27 in the financial reports as has been moved and seconded, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstaining? Next, we're looking to adopt the agenda for the remainder of the meeting. That will be as printed unless there was an addition that I'm not aware of.
Move accept.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Carroll and seconded by Mr. Lenz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we'll move down to public comments. For those of you not here, all five of us that I'm looking at in the public, and I know why at least three people are here, so we're going to move past those as I see none. Moving down to the spotlights, the first thing we're going to talk about is Teacher of the Year recognition, and as Jack said, there was a nice evening ceremony that Jack and I both attended a couple of weeks ago, as well as, of course, Superintendent Pettit, and sad to see some of our teachers leave. Of course, that is retirement and recognition kind of at the same time that we go through, which is kind of bittersweet, but I'll let Mr. Pettit speak to that.
Yeah, I'll just say that I thank the ones who came out tonight, as they've had a few banquets and different recognitions. Carrie Henley's here this evening, who was one of our nominated Teachers of the Year, and she was then voted to be the District Teacher of the Year. So thanks for coming out tonight and joining us. We appreciate you being here, and appreciate all of those who were nominated. We had, I'll read them really quickly if you all don't mind, and I will try not to mess them up like I did at the retirement banquet and rewards banquet. Kayla Gorell for MHS, Carrie Henley for the Career Center, who got District Teacher of the Year, Heidi Rogers for BMS and Northwest, for Tom Butterfield, Carrie Pomeranke, SPS, Ashley Bickle, I think I knew I had to say that the other night, I'm sorry. Benton was Amber Keeker, and Eastwood was Mackenzie Roulette. So that was everyone for the district. And if they don't mind standing for us to just give them a round of applause, I really am proud of them, and I think everybody knows what a great job that they do. I thought about having them bring their plaques and stand up in front of everybody again tonight, but I'm pretty sure they'd appreciate that we didn't do that. And I know Ms. Pomeranke's working at preschool screening, so thanks for popping in real quick.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, appreciate you all, thank you.
Congratulations to you. Thank you very much.
All right, moving along, I guess we'll move to the superintendent report and hear some more from Mr. Pettit.
Can I use your microphone so I don't have to bend over this? I only have about, can you hear me okay? I only have about a 40-minute presentation tonight, so this will go really quickly, I promise. No, actually, we have a lot going on tonight, but it's been discussed. Some of these things have been through 3 readings, so I'm really going to go pretty quickly. And next month is the month that the board will be presented with the budget for the next fiscal year. So I want to speak to some of the things that are playing into and factoring into that budget, including Senate Bill 727, was one item that since our last meeting did pass. I have some sarcasm here in the title of this. Senate Bill 727 has been being gloated on in the state spotlight quite a bit, and it does sound good, and I do say that with a bit of sarcasm, and I want to explain a little bit why to our patrons and to our board. But ultimately, this is a loss for public education in pretty much any public education realm you would inquire, and I want to explain why that is. What's appealing about it is that the bill becoming a law guarantees higher pay for teachers, but it didn't guarantee how to sustain funding to pay for it. In fact, it makes it pretty clear that it's going to jeopardize some of the future funding, which is why since our last meeting, we fought pretty hard against this in the district at the state level. We sent emails and asked staff to, if they were so inclined to email our representation, but it did still pass and get signed into law by the governor. It was one thing that I want us to make note of for the long term. We'll be talking about this next year in the budget time again, probably, depending on the economy. But the transportation funding levels that are built into this now law are not the current fully funded transportation levels, which fully funded by definition is 70%. So we're fully funded at 70%. It mirrors, I think it was 20 or 21 transportation levels, which was about 35%, which means that the law makes it very clear that they can cut transportation to sustain what's being mandated without funding. It gives a blank check to expand vouchers and charters, which means that as funding changes henceforth because of this law, when they increase funding or change funding for public education, they'll increase it and change it for vouchers and charters as well. And a quick irony about that to me is charters and voucher systems don't necessarily have to comply to the same laws that were imposed upon public education, and for that very reason, they are touted to be a better option. It's something I said to a lot of representatives this year. If that's better, maybe we should leave us alone with some of these mandates when we don't have educators on your panels and in your discussions. And here's the real dollars and cents of it that's concerning to me. It costs $500 million, this law, on top of the new SAT, which is exciting. It's great that our new state adequacy target is increasing, but that cost $800,000 on top of $500 million. It is not sustainable, assuming that revenues are going to decline. And the other thing that it didn't do is things like the grants where the state was doing like a 70-30 match for small schools to meet those minimum requirements for teacher pay. They haven't guaranteed that funding in the formula long term, so it's as long as it's available. And it also has the same implication for Career Ladder. I'd love to do Career Ladder for Marshall Public Schools, but to put the work in and promise it to our teachers to then have the state take away the funding in a year just seems like we're setting ourselves up for a heartache. So, and for any of us that have been in education for a while, we've seen that happen before. So those are the things I want to say so that we're informed about the other side of this issue. And I know some teachers in some circles have been like, well, this is great because the minimum levels, that's good. In Marshall, I will say we're okay because we hit that minimum level anyway with this year's salary increases. We're above the minimum and we aren't asking the state for any temporary funding to get us there. I worry about a lot of our smaller neighboring schools around us. I think that they're really the target of this legislation. And in the long term, I think they're going to feel it a lot quicker than we will. House Bill 2430, and if I've said that number wrong, I'm going off memory, and I hope I'm not mistaken. I know that that is a House bill, but there's so many of them out there right now going out there after taxes. Again, I believe that's certain, but it's like 90% certain. It passed the Senate. It's in the House. That was the same case last month. This bill would cut personal property tax by 7%. That is great for us personally, no question. But those are the funds that we look for to fund public education and the things we want to do with salaries. If Marshall would lose 30%, and this would pass, and right now the belief of educators is that this probably is in the top 2 or 3 for sure of having the probability of moving forward. In Marshall Public Schools, it would cut $729,000 if that passes. That's the estimation of 30%. And various people, because it's really hard to calculate that, are saying 30% may be a little low, probably more like 33%. That's going to impact our future abilities to increase salaries. I'm going blank now on what our total salary package this year, but it was somewhere around a combined total of $300 and some odd thousand. We increased salaries this year with 1%. but you're looking at a cut of more than double what we gave to our staff this year. So again, good for us personally. It's not great for us in public education if they keep pushing so many of these things at once. And this is redundant, but I'll say it, it's on my mind. The state had a surplus of money because of COVID and various other things. And that's the motivating factor that they aren't a bank. They shouldn't operate with a surplus, but it's one-time money, like we've talked about the COVID effect in Marshall's finances. The budget, should it be approved by the governor, has expended all of those surplus dollars. So for them to have this urgency to continue to cut all these taxes like there's a continued surplus is a little concerning and doesn't make a lot of sense in the long term. So that's where things are. Senate Bill 799 and open enrollment, those are still on the calendar for the floor, but we only have a few days left in legislative session. So my hope is...
That was my bad.
Okay, thought I did it. So my hope is that we're going to move on from that and be okay. And to that end, what's going on? Here it is. That's what I wanted. I was there in the first place. Thank you. So forecasting versus posturing. And when I'm saying posturing, I'm talking about what we're doing here in Marshall, just looking at the long term. And I know this is an exciting conversation. It's the last one you guys will hear before the budget approval, by the way. But on the left-hand side here, you see the underlined words, dropped, expended, concluded. April collections across the state of Missouri and in Marshall Public Schools as well, when we talk about our tax collection rate, we saw our first big drop in our collections at Marshall in April. The state has seen that drop since the first of the year. I think they're averaging now a little better. They're 3.5 or 3.8% down in collections since the first of the year. And state surplus funds, like I said, they're going to be expended in next year's budget. District COVID surplus money is concluded after this school year ends, which fiscally is June 30th. When we come back July 1, the last COVID dollars will go into our bank account next year. So it's all behind us, and things are showing a decline. And this isn't speculation or gloom and doom. This is what's happening that we can see. So where is Marshall in its posturing to prepare for the future? I'm excited to share the contrast and what's italicized here. Increases, savings, investments. Our increases in benefits package was aggressive this year, considering the long-term forecast and what's going on in the legislature. And it kept us ahead of these minimum requirements and showed, I hope and believe our teachers can see that we've done some good things to try and build their salaries. Not where we'd love to be compared to inflation, but we're really trying. Our reserves should increase with the influx of that final ESSER money. And that's not a bad thing considering a gloomy forecast for their future finances. And the insurance cost savings is going to allow us in this next budget year to invest in an insurance reserve for future unknowns. Our hope to do with that reserve is if we have increases for whatever reasons, there's many variables that can cause that we have something to insulate our employees against those increases in the future. So those are good things, I think, to posture us for the unknowns. Any questions about that? Some other financial stuff to prepare you a little bit in the public for our budget approval next month. Fund transfers. We have several on the agenda tonight. I want to explain them real quick and take your questions. Each year, we love our acronyms, a WADA transfer that's allowable up to 7% into Fund 4. You can't just put as much as you want to into Fund 4, which is what you use for capital projects. You have to follow guidance from the state. In 2020, that transfer was not made at Marshall Public Schools, I'm sure because of all the COVID money coming in. So when we discovered this, knowing that we've got construction and things going on, again, posturing for the unknown, we saw an opportunity to move $1.1 million into Fund 4 that wasn't. So you're going to have this really lengthy motion tonight where we have to, because we're moving it from 2020 to 21 to 22, et cetera, we have to adjust the beginning and end of year balances for each of those years to make it okay with our auditors and DESE. But that's going to put more into Fund 4, and so should we run into something else unknown with multi-million-dollar construction going on, it gives us a little bit of a rainy day savings account for that too at the end of the project. We don't want to get to the end and realize, oh, we're out of money, but the school's not done. So that's probably a smart move for us. The last thing that you'll make a motion on tonight will be budgeted amount for construction. When we passed the levy last year in April and then went right into a budget for a new year, we didn't know when construction would start. We didn't know what payments monthly would be. So we just didn't budget for that for a multitude of reasons. And a good thing we didn't. We thought we would start in December. I think we actually started in late February, March with construction. So now we know what construction payments are costing us. It's averaging around just less than, I would say at this moment, $1 million a month is what our construction payments currently are. And so we're gonna revise Fund 4 from budgeted to what we anticipate actuals. And that's pretty much the motions for Monday tonight. And these things help us land the plane, so to speak, for the budget that I bring to you next month that I'll ask you to approve for FY25. Any questions about that exciting news? Then I will get more exciting. I will show you a graph of numbers. And you don't have to see all the numbers. I just want to show you a trend. And I'll tell you, Ms. Durham has been super helpful this year in budget stuff. And if you ever see anything that's not pretty, Grace didn't do it. It was me, because she's better at that than I am. But what I want to show you is you see some vertical columns of school years in our budgeting formulas, the things that tie into what we can anticipate for our next funding level to be. And looking at 22, 23, 23, 24, the first thing, I don't have a pointer that'll help you, but it's the very first thing top left. You look at our summer school ADA, and you can see that we went from 30.5% to 90.5%. That is showing what the impact of summer school last year, the way we did it with the new program was. And that does factor into our formula. So that's a really good thing. And you also get ADA for those kids coming to school. If we look at the 24-25 column this current school year, you can see a few things. One, you'll notice that my summer school ADA calculation, we haven't had summer school yet, I'm calculating low, and I'm just giving you some examples. I'm going to make conservative low estimations because of those tax things that we just don't know. Some of the districts in our conference have seen a decline in tax revenue collections this school year, and we didn't. And I want to continue to be conservative. So I'm marking my summer school ADA low for the next 3-year projections I'm running out. And if I could take your eyes down below all the black lines horizontally to F and RL, free and reduced lunch, state FTE, January count. So this is looking at January, what was our free and reduced lunch? If you look at 24-25, the column circled, you will see that there's been an increase this year and last year from year prior. That has a lot to do with everything we've been doing with trying to get our lunch collections up, telling people that we may have to turn them into collections. Now, January wasn't as good as right now, but that's when the cutoff is to make these calculations. So even though I would anticipate next year to be better, again, I'm being conservative, and you see to the right, I continue with conservative figures. It's better to assume you're going to collect low and spend high than the opposite and be wrong. I'd rather be wrong and have too much money than not enough. If you look at your state adequacy target, this is the SAT, state adequacy target, how they fund us in this formula. For the first time in a long time, and it's been actually locked down since 2020 because of the COVID provision, as it was called, we're going to go from 6,375 per pupil to, you can see in the 24-25 column, I'm calculating 6,500. That's actually just a little less than what they're going to fund us. I can't, 6760, I believe, is what they'll fund us next year. I'm calculating 6,500. Again, that's just, I want to be a little bit conservative. We don't know what our revenues will be. So I'm estimating just a little under, and I'm keeping that low estimation running forward because what's not in this formula calculation is transportation funding. But I think that the state legislature, when they passed Senate Bill 727, has made it clear they're going to cut our funding in the next years to come, unless they have a plethora of money, which we can see from their budget. They're not going to. They're going to be back on budget. So I'm being conservative to prepare for those things I anticipate. So that's sort of a projection of the 3 years in the future, the 2 years in the past, and it's a very odd time with all the COVID money. Any questions about that? I just want to sort of show you the thinking that's going into the budget creation that's coming your way next month. As exciting as that was, I expected a long line of questions, but guess not. Last month we talked about the Department of Labor, and we talked about that there was potentially that for 2 years they've been talking about increasing the levels at which they would allow or not allow employees to be designated as exempt or non-exempt. I genuinely did not anticipate to come back this month and tell you that they approved it. It happened since we last talked. I was anticipating that in November to January it may happen because it would be the 3rd year of discussions. But they actually had them take partial effect July 1st, and they'll take full effect January the 1st. and they did increase it to $58,656. It was not popular with all of our employees to address the exempt versus non-exempt, and to put a lot of our classified employees on the salary schedule for everybody to see where they are when they hadn't previously been. For a lot of reasons, that wasn't a super popular decision, but I think it was honest, transparent. I think it was the right thing to do, and as it turns out, we were just 2 or 3 months ahead of a major change in the state that would have had us significantly non-compliant. We were already non-compliant, really, with that. So we addressed nearly all concerns except an area or two with regard to exempt and non-exempt status on job descriptions. And the only reason I can't say we've 100% done so is because I don't know what we overlooked by mistake. But I do know with one area that you've got about 10 pounds of policy this month already, and we just couldn't get all the policy and everything done completely, but we're really, really close. And I included a link if anybody wants to have a little assistance in going to sleep. You can read that in depth. Almost finished. This is pretty much everything you'll vote on in motions here soon, though, so hopefully it's helpful. Job descriptions and handbooks, huge bodies of works. Handbooks were a big discussion for us last year. We spent several months working on those and trying to improve them, trying to align them. I don't believe that we have them perfect by any means, but they are a lot better. And then we utilized and followed those handbooks this year, and our administrators found various shortcomings, things that weren't there. And we met again this year. We didn't have near the amount of work to do as we did last, but we've revised them again, sent them to legal, had them vetted again, and those are there for first reading, as well as all the rest of the job descriptions. That was about 2 years worth of work on the job descriptions. And they're now legal, they're aligned to everything. They're also tied into this employee manual we've created, which probably had the most lackings this year. We tried to improve that and close the gaps. But I think we're really getting in a good place to, it honestly it clarifies what expectations are, what professionalism looks like, and what's expected. And I think people like to just know what's expected so they can do a good job. Human nature, we all want to try and do a good job. So you had a few hundred pages of reading there if you so chose. And we will officially approve those documents next month. So we did phase 1, 2, and 3 on job descriptions. You got 2 and 3 tonight. You had phase 1 a month or 2 ago. We won't have a second reading. All of that will come to you for approval in June. So if we have questions, we've got a month to do work. Surplus, very last thing, I do believe. Going to ask you all to approve selling a couple of riding lawn mowers tonight that we had prior to taking mowing in-house. And we're going to add those to that bucket truck that I haven't gotten sold yet. And we're going to try to get all that sold by, what we're going to do is in this second bullet point, we're going to do sealed bid and sell these things with the bucket truck the same way as we did recently the trailer that Mr. Ranke's bringing to you tonight. I'm going to advertise it this time locally and do sealed bids. So if anybody has interest in these magnificent items, they can submit a bid in a sealed envelope to central office by June 1st at noon. They can call central office at that number. And there is the bucket truck of someone's dreams, and then one of 2 lawnmowers, and that lawnmower actually has a snow blower that attaches to it. So that is, I do believe, my report for this evening. Any questions for me?
Will there be some pictures posted for those people that are interested in those items, either a link to the website or somewhere where they can see them?
On the website, for sure.
On the website? Yeah. Mr. Ranke, it looks like you get to follow that 40-minute presentation.
I didn't leave it on. The clicker and the
Thank you for coming.
use it.
22 minutes.
Okay, thank you. It's hard to believe we're already at May, and I just wanted to say one other thing. I thought graduation went very well on Sunday, so it was a beautiful day. Appreciate everybody coming out to support our graduates during that time. So I'll get going here with my report. That's me. Give me just a second.
Probably so. Yeah.
We good? Maybe?
Oh, you're ready, sir.
There we go. Okay, so some things that, some happenings for tonight from my part. We're going to bring the 2024-2025 school year lunch prices for approval, and I'll go over those here in a little bit. I have a couple of current requests for proposals out there that I wanted to give the board a heads up on because we'll probably be bringing some of those bids back next month, and I'll go over those. I have two things on the agenda tonight. District copy paper for the 24-25 school year. Talk about, Mr. Pettit kind of mentioned it, our surplus classroom trailer bids we received back. Lead water testing results came back, so I wanted to go over those with the board tonight and let the community know. And then a construction update, what's happening with our new building and throughout the district this summer. Click it, Wesley. Okay, so 2024-25 school lunch prices, we are recommending that there is no increase for next year. As you can see in the past years that are on here, it's basically been a 10-cent increase each year, and that is kind of the standard. One of the reasons we are recommending not to have an increase for the 2024-25 school year is our excess funds that we have in food service. Now, we have those excess funds in food service that we need to spend on basically food service equipment, and that kind of is rollover from COVID money, ESSER money, and that's, I believe, how those funds have gotten built up within the district. So we'll give us a year to balance that back out. Districts are not supposed to make money off our food service program. That's in state legislation somewhere. And so DESE does check that. So when we show a surplus like we have right now, they're reaching out to us and saying, hey, what are you guys going to do to expend these funds for food service for your district? So we need to work on that throughout, this summer and moving into the next year. So that's why we're going to recommend no increase and let things kind of balance out. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Even though the prices will still stay the same, our cost per meal is actually above that number. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everyone that
That is correct.
what it costs us to give a meal out is higher than the $2.45 that you'll see at the high school or $2.40 at the middle school. And because of not paying for lunches, as Mr. Rickey was alluding to, for a couple of years during COVID, then that is where some of the surplus and add up is built up. I know we've done a lot of conversation about recovering lunch debt, and I don't want those two things to be confused with people as we talk about it, because we're recovering debt that we're currently incurring, but the surplus is built up from years past. So just wanted to talk through that point a little bit.
Correct. Yep. Thank you. Okay, if nobody has any questions on that. Okay, I put a couple RFPs out. One was fairly recent. You guys can see we have a freezer out at Beaker. You guys like that, Jim? I don't know if you can see that picture, but it's looked pretty good. So with some of our access food service money, we identified that freezer really needs to be replaced for the Beaker cafeteria. So we're going to go ahead, take bids on that this month, and I'll be bringing some proposals back to you guys next month in June to get that replaced. Another thing we've been working on actually for quite a while, and next month also in June, Mr. Woodring is going to be doing a presentation on safety and security, and he's been putting a lot of work into this also. So we are kind of wrapping up a lot of the financials and some different details about our windows and door entrances, glass, and the safety and security film that we would like to install throughout our buildings in the district. That has been a process because there are a lot of different options out there, researching the ones that are going to fit us best, researching the ones that are going to work, that are going to actually protect kids. So kind of getting that all bundled up with some prices. And so next month, Mr. Woodring will be bringing that to you guys to go over, show us some different options, and then some of the financials on that. Okay, I do have this. This is up for approval by the board. on the agenda tonight. So we took bids for the 2024-25 for our copy paper bids. We got 3 back in: Green Printer, Springfield Paper Company, and Clayton Papers. Green's was at $38.50 per case. Springfield was $35.93 per case, and Clayton Paper Company was $32.90 per case. I am going to recommend Green Printers like I did last year. I know they are more expensive, but I will also say Green has also helped with our distribution anytime we need help storing, and they work really well with our people in getting things delivered and throughout the district. I also reached out to the other 2 trying to figure out the quality of the paper and everything, and I did not get a lot of cooperation back. So not saying that they're bad companies or anything, I just don't know a lot about them right now, so that's why I'm going to recommend Green Printers. So that'll be on the agenda. The next thing that I'm going to have on the agenda is we brought the classroom trailer at Beaker, the one that's right on Vest Street. And we, as a district, would like to get that moved, so we did surplus that. I think, was that last month, 2 months ago? You guys did surplus that. We did put out some newspaper ads, tried to get the word out the best we could. Had a few different people call me that had interest in it, but we ended up getting 1 bid back. And that bid was from Chris Bethel for $100.
Nobody wants to move it.
Nobody wants to move it, that is correct. Now, when I put out the bids, that is kind of the deal. Whoever won the bid, it is their responsibility to pay to move it, and that's all on
So we
the,
don't have to pay him to take it?
no, he's gonna give us
Great deal.
And we had that volunteer take the decks off, so that was good.
Yes, that is correct.
That's always
So,
helpful.
I'm gonna try and be there when he moves it. I moved one time and we got about 100 yards and it went.
Gary, do you want me to live stream that for you?
Yeah, that would be.
So, I think that will be nice to get moved out by that school and then look a little bit better. So that I will ask you to approve that tonight also. All right, so this is another thing I've been talking about, I think probably for, 6 months here. The mandate that the state came out for our lead water testing. Every district has to do it in the state of Missouri. We did our testing over spring break, and the results came in 2 days ago, I believe. I think I got the report in. And it might not look bad, or it doesn't look, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to be honest, okay? And I don't mean, it just wasn't. So we did 221 testing samples throughout the whole district. And you can see the different numbers of each building. And with that, that's basically where water fountains were, any classroom sinks, and any water sources that we would do cooking with. As you can see, I'm not going to read down through all those, but we had 46 sources that came back above the limit that we could have. Most of these really were classroom sinks that we got hit on. There was some kitchen sinks. This report will all be on our district website by the end of the week, so if anybody if they want to look, all these numbers will be there. You'll be able to see the exact locations, what each building did. What we have done right now, once I got the report, actually the next day, we went around and we posted signs on these sources that it was not for drinking or cooking. Please don't use that water until we get them remedied. The plan is moving forward for these 46 sources is we are going to install filters. There's a certain, it's ASNI 56 that are required for any of the lead sources. So we actually have already ordered those, and I will be installing those in these locations over the summer, so that will get us back in compliance. With that, the filters to start out, besides our maintenance people taking time installing, going to run around $4,000 for all of them. And that is also, I'm working within that Get the Lead Out grant testing, there's a possibility, I'm pretty sure we can get reimbursement also for that $4,000 because we have some room in our grant. But I'm working with them right now on that. So, and then we should, once we get all those installed, we should be back in compliance by August, by the time school starts up in August.
Do we have to
So,
retest those 46 locations after we install them?
my understanding is no right now, as long as you do the, put the filters on. I did a report back into the State Department of Health and Senior Services, and basically every spot that came back above the limit, put in this report to the state. They are reviewing that, and so I don't believe we will, but they could come back and say, yes, we want you to retest these or these or these.
And then how often do we have to replace those filters?
Yeah.
That's probably gonna be about every year that I
Once a
believe we
year.
have to do those, yes. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then we do have to do retest mandated every 5 years throughout the district. Any other questions on that, on the lead water testing? Okay. Some good news, some construction updates here. Things still are going along pretty good. We've had some rain days, of course. We've had a lot of rain that has slowed some things down out at the construction site. But I put some pictures in here. If you're actually just kind of on the road and looking across, it's actually hard to see this part, but it was kind of neat when we got down in there. So this is the elevator shaft. Now it has been full of water a couple times in the last week, but that's not really a problem. They get in there and pump it all out. So this is still the next thing that we are kind of waiting on. They have all that foundation poured, and that is all set up. We're just waiting on the masonry to start putting the elevator shaft up. They are a little bit behind on that, but we are, one of the main things that are coming up at the beginning of June is getting our steel in and getting our steel started to get put up. And so we are still on schedule for that, and that is one of those main turning points to get that structure going before everything else comes on. So fingers crossed, the rain can hold off a little bit, and we'll stay on schedule for that. So that is exciting. Also, throughout the rest of the district, the school's winding down. Thursday, Navitas is coming in to make the big push on a lot of our lighting and energy saving projects we have going on. So kids are moving out and they're moving in within our district to be able to do that and throughout a lot of our buildings. So it'll keep us hopping this summer. Anybody have any questions on that? All right.
Good job, David.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, that's your inspections on the work itself. Yeah, that's part of it all too. But inside orders that. So it's not a friend deal that way.
Thank you, Mr. Rinky. Moving down to old business, we've had some MSBA policy updates we've had some discussion on for probably about the last 3 months now, probably I'll say. Maybe one or two of them may have lingered a little bit longer. And some of them are a little bit newer. Artificial intelligence is one of them, and artificial intelligence use. During that, it also mandates that you have to designate a district AI coordinator as well in there, which we later renamed. Staff support leave, professional staff short-term leaves, professional staff compensation, and then a procedure regarding food service management and looking at debt collections, which by adding some free and reduced lunch and making that more, I guess, widely known, or getting some of those more applications out, which we've done in the last 4 or 5 months, and we're looking to do again next year after, as I was talking about earlier, the COVID money or the fact that people didn't have to pay for lunches for a couple of years, getting back into that practice and getting people to apply, and we'll be hitting that hard, I'm sure, going into the following school year. So, but those 5 policies are what we are going to be looking to approve, and there has been quite a bit of discussion and back and forth. I know Mr. Lenz weighed in on some leave, and I believe became satisfied at a point when we were talking about possibly some long-term leave for individuals because of spousal death, and then arriving at a place where we could use leave in certain ways a lot more flexibly, which seemed to have came across.
I didn't hear most of that, Brian. I'm
Okay.
sorry. You gotta talk louder.
So on the leave policy, we had talked a lot about, you had talked about wanting to have some extended spousal leave in there. And then I believe we've remedied that by using leave in various ways and allowing people a lot more flexibility with their leave. So that kind of remedied some of those questions and concerns that we had over making sure people had adequate time for the loss of a spouse or child, unfortunately, if that would occur, a direct person within them, so.
I think that was a good compromise. I really do.
So I'm looking for a motion on this and any further discussion that we may have about it.
Are we doing on all these at the same time?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see no problem with any of them. I'll make the motion for all.
It's been moved by Mr. Carroll,
Second.
second by Mr. Shepherd. Is there discussion?
Call a question?
All those in favor of approving the MSBA policy updates to the district, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstaining or recusing? Next, moving down to new business, of which we have quite a bit. So I'm going to first start off with the approval of the 2024-2025 lunch prices. As Mr. Rinky outlined for us, that will stay in line with exactly where we are this year, moving on to next year.
So moved.
Second,
Been moved by Mr. Shepherd and seconded by Mr. Carroll.
question?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, moving down is to the approval of the stipend list. This was also in your packet and outlined by percentages and categories.
Make a comment, that's the first time I've ever seen that crazy thing. I've been asking for it for all the years I've been on the board. I move we accept.
Moving into my 7th year is the first time I've actually officially seen it that wasn't on a photocopy or with some edits made to it. So
Stipends
I
all over.
I definitely want to say
No way.
thanks to both of our bookkeepers who are doing a great job, and having Ms. Durham in that role.
Yeah.
She was able to dedicate time and attention to it, and it was desperately needed. And everybody should be able to see that and know the cost. And I haven't been able to do that either since I
There's
got
some
here.
things that in the future we probably might want to discuss and adjust, but at least now we can
Have a
look at
starting
them.
point.
I agree.
Have a starting point.
Yes.
Completely
Yeah.
agree.
I second.
Yeah. Call question?
it's been moved and seconded.
Who was the motion on that? I'm sorry.
The original motion was Mr. Carroll and the second was Mr. Shepherd.
Okay.
They're leading the race tonight on on motions, it seems. So, does anyone have any comments before we go to the question that's been called for? All
I'm
those
just
in,
trying to hurry you, Brian.
all those in
Another
favor,
speech, I
please
can
say
see it
aye.
coming.
Any opposed or abstaining? Just want to make sure we all get our few seconds if we need them. So, next we need to look at the approval of the Fund 4 budget revision, and that is just going to be a
Have that long,
motion.
lengthy-
This is not the long language yet. I'm going to
Yeah.
give you some language on that one and this one as well. So this is just to approve the Fund 4 transfer from our budgeted to our actuals for May of
So moved.
2024.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Carroll and
Question.
seconded by Mr. Lenz, and they are ready for the questions. So this just, whenever we make a budget, it is actually just kind of a good round part guess that we're saying, for lack of a better term, and then we actualize back to the expenses. So that's all that is for May of '24. The question's been called for. Does anyone, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? I'm slowing down Mr. Carroll's train tonight, so I'm going to keep it moving. So.
Well, I kind of thought we could just do all these at one time, but that's all right. Go ahead.
So for clarity, it's nice for us to keep them separate. So next, we're going to approve the ASBR adjusted amounts for fiscal years 20, 21, 22, and 23. The motion needs to sound as follows: to approve the 1920 transfer of $1,186,912 from the WADA maximum transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 4. 2021 transfer of $1,186,912 from 1 to 4 to correct the beginning and ending balances, In the year 21 to 22, we're going to transfer $1,186,912 from Fund 1 to Fund 4 to correct the beginning and ending balances. And 22 to 23, we're going to transfer $1,186,912 from Fund 1 to Fund 4 to correct the beginning and ending balance. We're going to transfer as well $135,326.33 from Fund 2 to Fund 1 to zero out the teacher's fund, which must be done annually. And 23 to 24, transfer $1,186,912 from Fund 1 to Fund 4. And then also for anybody that does accounting like Mr. Lenz, we will also need to transfer $135,326.33 from Fund 2 to Fund 1 to correct the beginning and ending balances as stated.
So move.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll.
Second.
So as long as it took me to read that, it is going to take people even longer to go back through the fiscal years and adjust that. So thank you, bookkeepers, for going back and making sure our books stay in order. It has been moved and seconded. Does anyone have any questions about this? I believe we had an explanation for it probably a meeting or two ago as well, and have talked about it. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Moving down next to the approval of next year's critical shortage declarations.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Shepherd and seconded by Mr. Carroll. Is there any questions or conversation regarding this topic? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining or recusing? Next, we're looking to approve the surplus. We have already made a motion to approve the bucket truck previously. This is going to be for the addition of the 2 surplus John Deere riding mowers. I think I may have skipped one, so I'll go back and catch F, but I've already moved to G. So.
So moved.
Can't find it.
All right.
I'll second.
It's been, thank you for giving Mrs. Staley a chance to jump in. She has a second on that. Mr. Shepherd is a first on that. All those in favor of item G, approving of surplus additions of the riding mowers, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or recusing? Next, moving back to F, which I skipped inadvertently in my cross-off list, is the approval of the Board of Education meeting times for the 24-25 school year. Those are in your packet underneath the yellow tab in the back, and it looks like they will still remain on the second Tuesday of the month for the most part, except for a couple of movements due to need.
Yeah, that's that's a pretty version, which is what our final one will look like. I've got a complicated version that's got a few considerations like the August hearing and stuff, but it all stays on the second Tuesday.
Okay.
The one thing that I would ask you all to decide tonight before we leave is the work session in June, which is still this fiscal year, but it wasn't approved, which we've been discussing via email. But we'll give you this in hard copy after you approve it too.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
The agenda of when we meet, the schedule when we meet.
So the work session is what he's talking about that we're proposing to happen in June for us to go back and redo our governance plan or to look back through that with EGL if we so choose to go that way. I believe that's a later discussion.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. It was only 8,000.
Yeah.
So all those in favor to approve the Board of Education meeting times for the upcoming calendar year of 24-25, please say aye.
Aye.
Any, I was going to say, I don't think we had a motion on that. I've been getting carried away. You all have been ready to vote
So
so
moved.
quickly, so.
Second.
It's been moved by
Aye.
Mr. Carroll and seconded by Mr. Shepherd. So moving along back to voting now in the correct order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Going back to letter H in the alphabet in the correct order, this is for the approval of the copy paper bid. Mr. Rinke outlined that. I believe the bid was for around $20,000 for green printers. If he wants to give me an exact number, I'll go for that. just to make sure it's recorded correctly in the
It's
minutes.
$38.50 a case. Estimated 520 cases, $20,020.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. And yes, sir, Mr. Lenz.
Just a FYI, that's $2,912 higher than the lowest bid. But I'm for green printers, I'll vote yes. That's
Yeah.
$2,900.
Yes, sir.
I also did some questioning on that just to check when he talked about the lack of response, not being able to find out about the paperweight and how those things are going to work, as well as I'd like to spend as much of our money around here as we
It
can
also makes it
and to
easier,
bring it back. And
easier for our people to just leave them there and move them around.
And the fact that they've been storing and helping us with our transfers with that paper, as Mr. Rinke outlined to me as well, I do believe that is money well spent here within
That
town.
makes a good point.
Agreed.
I need a motion.
I'll motion.
We have a motion from Ms. Staley. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Lenz. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or recusing? No one's related there, right? Okay. Let's make sure. Next, we're going to accept the bid for the trailer at Beaker Middle School for a whopping $100, which will probably cost somebody $20,000 to move unless they own the equipment or more.
So moved.
I'll second that. Good luck, Chris.
It has been moved by Mr. Shepherd and seconded by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have item J, approval of the tuition increase for the practical nursing program. I have the representatives from the Career Center here who do not wish to speak unless we have questions about it. It was pretty well outlined in our packets, so just teasing Mr. Wilcox and his party. You did have 3 people here tonight of the 5. I just
thought
want to
he
go
was
on
in
and
trouble.
say,
I
so
thought he
you're
was
very
in
well
trouble.
represented from your building tonight. So the change is due to what it looked like to me with software packages and textbooks for the most part, and the increase was just around $500, I believe. It was somewhere around $17,500, I think is where it landed, without going back and looking at those numbers exactly. Some of our other surrounding and competing districts are around $18,000, and then there are 1 or 2 that are a little bit less to us, and I'm going to say there are less programs than ours. So that's why you pay for what you get sometimes. So if there's a motion for the approval of the tuition increase for the practical nursing program by $500,
So moved.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded by Mr. Carroll and Mr. Shepherd following. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? All right, moving over to item 11, first readings. The handbooks are here for a first reading, Phase 2 and Phase 3 of job descriptions, and an increase of secondary transportation to a 2-mile radius, which was collected for you as a first reading. Our handbooks have also been going and written by an outside company and vetted through their legal services as well, to make sure that we are staying legally binding with all of our changes and handbook alignment for us as a district, which has been something that I've talked about for a number of years. I didn't never like the fact that our fonts were different, our design was different, and the way that we wrote things were different, and it was a lot harder, I felt, for our students and families to be able to understand, as well as you move from building to building within the district, that the rules change sometimes within the district. And so getting those things aligned so our students and our families have the same understanding has been something I always thought was very important. Mr. Lenz, I see you have a comment down there, sir.
I just have a question. I've never ridden the buses. What does that mean, the 2-mile? What happens in the 1
Good,
mile
Mr.
or 2 mile? I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, so with regard to the state will give districts some funding for the students that they pick up, but they actually don't pay for any students within 3.5 miles of a school. So any student in Marshall historically has picked up all kids door to door, no matter how close they live to a building. Last year, we moved to a 1-mile radius district-wide, which was certainly an adjustment for everyone.
So they won't pick them up within a mile?
So we already do not pick up within 1 mile of the school. The proposal there is that for middle school, high school, that we increase it to a 2-mile radius for pickup, but not to change the elementary. Less kiddos will be affected, less little kiddos would be walking a long way, and we hope that if we do that, we could in conjunction, add some universal bus stops around town that would not qualify for reimbursement, but it would help those families that have a burden. And we have a strange, it's not a phenomenon, I guess, but for districts our size and bigger, you might be a household of 5 children, and 2 of them can ride the bus and 3 of them cannot, depending on where the school is in relation to your house. We think that 2-mile radius, it would help us with our shortage of drivers. Universal stops would help us to alleviate the burdens on the families. And
Okay.
closing 3 more schools will help it all be a moot point, so.
Thank you.
Experiment with this summer.
I knew I would not explain that eloquently. Thank you. So due to the fact that these are first readings, there'll be time for additional questions and review for us. Now moving on to seeking a motion to adjourn to closed session. The Board of Education will meet in closed session in compliance with revised statute 610.021. We're going to speak about legal action, causes action, or litigation, hiring, firing, or disciplining or promoting of particular employees, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals, preparation for negotiations with employee groups, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment. And then, of course, we will return to regular session after that discussion happens.
Move we adjourn to closed session.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll, and I'm going to give the second to Mr. Lenz, just to edge out Mr. Shepherd for the night. He's got a good load tonight. And I'm going to start down here with Ms. Daly. In favor?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Lenz?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd? Myself, aye. Thank you.